Almighty God, who in thy infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of rulers and councils for the welfare of society and the just government of man, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Let thy blessing descend upon us here in this Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in thy presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge, all which we ask in the name and for the sake of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, morning. I beg to move that item 12, which is adjournment, becomes item 13, and a new item, appointment of committees, be inserted at item 12, and also under item 12 to insert sub-item 1, Standing Orders Committee. Thank you.
Seconder.
Yes, seconded, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that item 12, which is adjournment, becomes item 13, and a new item, appointment of committees, be inserted at item 12, and also under item 12 to insert sub-item 1, Standing Orders Committee. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. So I'm asking the Senator Vidal to take your seat on the right of Honorable Charles there. Left, sorry. Left of Honorable Charles. I know we'll get an opportunity to congratulate. Let's give the new senator a round of applause.
Victory and congratulatory messages.
Yes, Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I rise very briefly to extend my congratulations to Senator Vidal on her appointment as Senator in the House of Assembly of Dominica. I wish her well. Parliament is a place of serious business. It requires discipline, it requires knowledge of the standing orders. And of course, the Speaker is the ultimate arbiter in the House of Assembly. So I wish you all the best and God's blessings to you. Mr. Speaker, I also want to take the opportunity to extend condolences to the family of Mr. Vanus John Charles, a blessed memory. Someone who I've known for so many years and who was personally very impactful on my journey in politics. But we also work very closely in the banana industry. He was appointed on Windfresh and of course with DECO and served as the government's principal advisor on bananas, banana production, and also the export of bananas. And so we would have spent a lot of time on this, accessing new markets, the restructuring of WIPDECO, the expansion of the investments in the United Kingdom, of course visiting the facilities in the United Kingdom, and of course supermarkets, and encouraging supermarkets to purchase our bananas. And at that time we were very successful, and this could not have been done without his experience, and he being a banana farmer himself, understood all of the facets of banana production and exporting, foremost banana farmer in the country. And of course he would have made his contribution in many other spheres of our country. He was a senator in the House of Assembly, and certainly the entire country, and of course the Renewable Islands would have appreciated his contribution to the development of Dominica, and of course by extension the Renewable Islands, all of whom export bananas to the United Kingdom. I also want to extend condolences to the family of Mr. Frankie Crazy Bellot, who also was a very personal friend of mine, who I first met personally in 1998. And from that very day we met, we clicked because I believe in large measure our views on life and helping people were similar. A very generous person, a bigger than life character, one who certainly came back to Dominica as a Dominican and invested in Dominica, creating jobs. Focusing on creating jobs and creating opportunities for so many people. And so I extend to his wife and his children, his mother and siblings, entire family, and of course the Kyrie family, my heartfelt and sincere condolences. He was a true friend of mine, to the extent that I'm actually the godfather of one of his last son, who I give certain commitments that I'm certainly ensure that I'll be there for them. I also want to extend condolences to the mother of Senator Victor, who her mother passed away a few weeks ago. And so I wish the family well, and we continue to pray that they will overcome the loss of the mother. And also to the family of the late Mr. Philip Nassif, to Gregor and Ivo and all his siblings and entire Nasif family. No doubt you cannot speak about economic development, you cannot speak about coconut production or soap manufacturing or hotel industry, agriculture without mentioning the name of Philip Nasif. And as a young man, I had the distinct privilege of spending some time with him, both at his house in Belfast and of course his country house in Picard. And if you, Mr. Speaker, if you've been trying to figure why is it I promote limes so much, I got that idea and suggestion from Mr. Nasif that lime production is very important, and so I encourage people to plant limes and citrus because it is an important crop. Once you have limes, you must sell. You must sell limes, and had the Ministry of Agriculture allowed me to import seedlings from Belize and from Jamaica, I would have had about 5 acres of limes only planted in Bakehouse. Prepared the land and got all the certification from Jamaica and from Belize and also the U.S. Customs and everybody. But there's a phobia in the Ministry of Agriculture about importing plants into Dominica and so forth. But lime production is very important, and of course we mourn the loss of Mr. Nasif, a stalwart in the private sector. And one of the things I like about him is his commitment to and his promotion of horticulture and landscaping and planting of flowers and beautifying the place and keeping the place clean. Every property Mr. Nasif owned or invested in, you will have seen how tidily it is kept with proper landscaping and so forth. And it's something that I believe that the private sector entities, you go to too many businesses and the place is untidy, it's messy, and I think that the private sector and of us, we as individuals, need to really emulate the need to protect the environment, to enhance the aesthetics of the environment, the cleanliness of the environment, and to beautify the place. We have too much fertile soil and adequate rainfall and access to water for us not to be planting and caring for the environment and so forth. I think each of us has a role to play in this. And of course, finally, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to list the names, but several of my friends and party supporters who have passed in the last few weeks, I extend to their families my heartfelt condolences, and of course, in my constituency as well, some friends of long standing, political and otherwise, who passed away, and of course, this young lady from Galva in Penville, who we shall lay to rest on the 3rd of May. I extend my heartfelt condolences and sympathies to all the families. Thank you.
On behalf of the parliamentary opposition, we would like to extend our deepest sympathy to the Senator Laurie Victor on the passing of her mother, Uraldine Victor, better known as Teacher Dindin of Salisbury. Teacher Dindin played a very prominent role in early childhood education and has left a mark on each individual she has taught during her service and anyone she came across. Many individuals, including myself, can proudly say that we had the honor and privilege of being educated by such a remarkable woman. May her soul rest in peace.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and a pleasant good morning to you. I also want to join the Prime Minister in extending congratulations to the dear Senator Vida. I want to congratulate you on your appointment and challenge you to always do what is right, always do what is fair, and practice the values of integrity and that of justice, irrespective of which side you sit. As long as you know what you're doing is right, always do the right thing and support that. I also want to join the Prime Minister in extending condolences to the dear friend Frankie Bellot, otherwise known as Crazy T. He was an extraordinary individual. We recognize in the St. Joseph constituency the gem we have lost in the person called Crazy. You know, he was a personal friend. He supported myself as a parliamentary representative and played a tremendous role in our politics and our development as well. I also want to extend sincere condolences to the family of Mr. Vanos John Charles. Vanos was everything. He was a people's person, a politician. The Prime Minister elucidated very well about the life of Mr. John Charles. He was another gem to the people of St. Joseph and the St. Joseph constituency. I continue to mourn his loss, and though I am saddened, I want to say to the family of Mr. John Charles that we ought not to mourn his passing, but celebrate and be happy with the life that he lived. I also want to extend condolences to Senator Victor on the passing of her mom. I know that this is an exponential loss for yourself. I continue to mourn with you, and I pray for God's guidance and mercy and strength over yourself and your family. And last but not least, I also want to extend sincere condolences to the family of Mr. Philip Nassif. I know that he played a monumental role where Dominica's development is concerned. I want to say to the family that time heals all things. And I also pray for God's strength and guidance during the time of bereavement. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Morning. I'd like to send some congratulatory report to our new member on the opposition side, Mr. Vidal, and also to Alison James, our own King James in Margot. Last Carifta, as we all know, Carifta is the highest competition in the region. Last year he took part in the under-17 javelin. He got gold. And he moved up to the under-20, where he was the youngest in his category, and he also medaled with a bronze medal. So I'd like to send some congratulatory report to this young man and keep on doing his utmost best to represent his constituency and Dominica at large. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to extend my condolences to the family and friends and the entire communities of Biosh, Dublin, and Corley on the passing of Mrs. Angela Coffey, a centurion. She died at the tender age of 106 years old. Mrs. Coffey has been described by everybody as a very tender soul who gave everything she had, her advice, her coin, her assets, lands, to the community and to the people of Dominica. So she will be sadly missed, and I would just like to extend that condolences to her family. I would also like to extend condolences to Senator Laurie Victor on the passing of her mom, Miss Geraldine Victor. Miss Victor, from what I know of her, she was a very pleasant person, always have an upbeat and nice disposition, and please accept my condolences, Miss Victor.
Proceed.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to extend congratulations to Senator Shalika Vidal. We welcome you to the team. Now we have dominated the men, 4 ladies, 2 men. We welcome you to the team, and we look forward to the value that you would add as we present ourselves on behalf of the people of Dominica. I look forward to working with you even more than we have done so far. I wish to extend sympathies to my good friend to the right there, Laurie Victor, on the passing of her mom, Teacher Din Din, pleasant lady, always laughing, always smiling. And I wish you comfort, to you and your dad especially, at this time as you mourn. I wish to also extend a sympathy to the family of Vanos John Charles, as Tony and I, Senator Charles, and Honorable Charles, and I know him as Van, as we used to go at DBMC forefathers while they were serving there with him as well. So we wish to extend sympathy to his family on his passing. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, proceed, Senator.
Members of the House, I would like to join the rest of the members in the House in congratulating Senator Vidal on accepting the role to being the newest senator in the House of Assembly. As was said before, it's serious work, It's challenging work, but it is important work. And I think you have what it takes and you're up to the task of representing your people well. Mr. Speaker, I would like to express heartfelt sympathies to the family of Elias Dupe, a young man that was a true example of what service above self looks like. Went away, spent a lot of his time overseas, but came back to Dominica and got involved in everything. The impact of his death was felt nationwide because you could see an outpouring of love and support to his family. So I would like to express publicly sympathies to his mother, his wife, his brother, personal family, friends, the Invest Dominica Authority and everywhere else he worked, and everybody whose life he touched. He will be remembered for continuously engaging, always having something good to say about Dominica, and looking forward for the day when he can participate in helping in a more active way to build a better Dominica for all of us. So sympathies to his family. I would also like to join everyone else in expressing sympathies to Senator Victor and her family in the passing of her mother. I don't think anyone can say they truly, well, unless they've experienced it, the loss of a mother. But we'd like you to know that we mourn with you and we share in your pain. And I think this entire house will continue to sympathize with you. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I too would like to extend my deepest sympathies to the family and friends of the deceased Frankie Crisit Bellat. Mr. Bellat had made a significant contribution to media and the entertainment sector in Dominica. In addition, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Bellat was a consistent commercial farmer, dashing farmer, and poultry farmer in the wet area, so he also made his contribution to agriculture in Dominica. Mr. Bellat had a good working relationship with our staff of the Extension Division, and he was always really willing to receive technical advice. Mr. Speaker, I too will also like to extend my deepest sympathies to the Senator Laurie Victor on the passing of her mom, Geraldine Victor. My sympathies goes out as well to her dad, her sisters, and her brother, Ofnil, who is employed with the ministry, where he serves as an extension officer in the Central Region. I pray the good Lord to shower them with courage and blessings as they go through this difficult time. The Speaker, please permit me as well to extend my condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Philip Nassif. Mr. Nassif was a prolific investor in many sectors on the island, but in particular, he left an indelible mark on the agro-processing subsector. He has blazed the trail for agro-processing, which sustained the livelihoods of many farmers and factory workers on the island. Also, I would like to express my sympathies to the family and friends of Mr. Vanus John Charles. He was a leader and an exemplary farmer. May he rest in peace, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Let's just do a short one because I want us to proceed. Very short. Yeah, very, very short.
Yes. Thank you so very much, Mr. Speaker. I wish to congratulate Mr. Speaker, our newest senator to our team, Senator Shalika Vidal. I know that she will bring and make meaningful contributions to our team, and I wish her well in this endeavor. Also, Mr. Speaker, the parliamentary opposition would like to extend our deepest sympathy to our senator, Senator Laurie Victor, on the passing of her mother, Teacher Dindin. She was an early childhood educator and taught almost every young person in Salisbury. I pray that Senator Victor and her family by extension finds comfort in this time of bereavement. And quickly, with the parliamentary opposition, also would like to express our deepest condolences to Mr. Vanus John Charles of St. Joseph. He will be remembered for his outstanding contribution to Dominica's development in the field of agriculture. He began his career in agriculture as a full-time citrus and banana farmer, and also the chairman of the BMC. The parliamentary opposition, we extend our heartfelt condolences to Mr. Vanus on his passing, and may he so continue to rest in peace. Thank you so very much.
Mr. James, just one. I would just like to just extend my heartfelt condolence to your family, Senator Vidal, and to all the other people that were mentioned. I would just want to extend my sympathies to them. Congratulations, Senator Vidal. Let's proceed.
Confirmation of minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the minutes of the meeting of Friday, 29 December 2023 be confirmed as circulated.
Second.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the minutes of the meeting Friday, 29 December 2023 be confirmed as circulated. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Announcements by Speaker.
Just some short announcement. I received letters requesting permission to be late. Not usual to say who will be late, but I actually received correspondences from 4 members of the House to be excused in regards to being late. That's Honorable Senator Honorable Kasani Laville, Honorable Wenham, Honorable Dennis Charles, Honorable Kozia Frederick. Also, I received a letter from Honorable Fidel Grant, who has requested permission to be excused since he's traveling overseas on government business. That's it.
Presentation of papers.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table. Schedule of supplementary appropriation for the period July 1, 2023 to December 31st, 2023.
Proceed. Yes, proceed, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table. National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission Annual Report for the period 1st January to 31st December 2019. National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission Annual Report for the period 1st January to 31st December 2020.
Government notices.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice that at a later stage of the proceedings, I will be moving the motions, supplementary estimates of expenditure for the period July 1 to 31st December 2023, and authorization for credit facility from the International Development Association to finance the development of a new electricity transmission network from the Roseau Valley to Foncolé. And will be taking all 3 stages of the bill shortly entitled Supplementary Appropriation 2023-2024, Act 2024, and Tax Information Exchange Amendment Act 2024, standing in my name on the order paper.
Statement by ministers.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Tax Information Exchange Amendment Act 2024 be read a first time.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
The bill has been read. Mr. James.
Tax Information Exchange Amendment Act 2024.
The bill has been read the first time.
Public business, government business, motion.
Be it resolved that this Honorable House approves the supplementary estimates of expenditure for the year 2023-2024 amounting to $52,441,040, the details of which are contained in the attached schedule.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to present the supplementary estimates comprising of 3 advances made from the contingencies fund during the first half of fiscal year 2023-2024, totaling $52,441,040. Section 80, subsection 1 of the Constitution, as well as Section 12.3 of the Finance Administration Act, Chapter 6302 of the 2017 revised laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, allow the Minister of Finance to advance urgent or unforeseen expenditures not originally approved in the annual budget and subsequently seek approval of the Honorable House for these advances by way of supplementary estimates. The details of the expenditure are as follows. 2% of $791,040 was met through grant funding. 93% of $48,950,000 was financed by the and drawn down of loans already approved by the House, while 5% or $2,700,000 was funded by local means. Mr. Speaker, in 2020, the Caribbean Development Bank made available a grant in the amount of $2,132,718 United States dollars to the government of Dominica for the purpose of building resilience and adaptive capacity to climate change and disaster risk in 8 hamlets in the Kalinago Territory project. An amount of $500,000 was drawn down by the Ministry of Environment, Rural Modernization, and Kalinago Upliftment and Constituency Empowerment to meet commitments relating to that project. Mr. Speaker, the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project, commonly referred to as DVRP, funded by the World Bank, IDA, became effective on the 8th of September 2014, with its main objectives to reduce vulnerability to natural hazards and climate change impacts in Dominica through 1, investment in resilient infrastructure, and 2, improve hazard data collection and monitoring systems. Mr. Speaker, since its inception, government has achieved the following. 90% of Lot 1 of East Coast Road Rehabilitation Project has been completed. 40% of Lot 2 of East Coast Road Rehabilitation Project has also been completed. We have seen the construction and commissioning of water storage tanks in 8 communities, namely Monrachet, Platmaper, Bioche, Picard, Glanvilla, Grange, Savonpai, and Cottage, thereby increasing water storage capacity by over 1 million liters. Government has also undertaken the expansion of forestry nursery facilities to include the rehabilitation of some of the buildings, planting sheds, irrigation, storage sheds, and related infrastructure. A new meteorological office building has been constructed in Jimit as well. A national hydrometeorological network has been developed and installed to ensure that all the 34 hydro and monitoring stations are online and fully operational. And lastly, we have reinstated and upgraded the Dominode geospatial data platform and provided training to government personnel in the use and maintenance of the platform. Mr. Speaker, this upgrade to the Dominode platform will allow for the hosting of all government's geospatial data, including data gathered by Lands and Surveys Division, Ministry of Public Works, Physical and Planning Division, as well as our LiDAR and bathymetric data and the outputs of the DVRP soil mapping project. It would also allow government and the public to get information on our hazard vulnerabilities, including landslides, flooding, and geological hazards. With this dominoed repository of information, government will be able to optimize national land use and support data-driven decision-making as it relates to well-planned and durable infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, since the start of this DVRP project, several changes have been made to the project to address new challenges caused by climatic events that arose during its implementation, including Hurricane Maria. In the supplementary estimates, which are now before the House for approval, an additional amount of $49,241,040 were drawn down from the IDA funds through both grants and credit facilities. Of this amount, $48,950,000 was drawn from the loan to facilitate the completion for the East Coast Roadworks Lot 1, while $291,040 was drawn from the grants to provide software support, software development, and training services for the Domino platform. These two amounts were approved as additional budgetary allocations to the Ministry of Public Works, Public Utilities, and the Digital Economy. Mr. Speaker, an amount of $2,700,000 was allocated to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, International Business, Trade and Energy to support the cost of operations of the Dominica Geothermal Development Company. Mr. Speaker, I now commend for the approval of the House the supplementary estimates in the amount of $52,441,040. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The motion is now before the House for debate. Yes, Honorable Alfred, you may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to support the supplementary appropriation presented by the Minister of Finance. And on behalf of the constituents of Cassibruce, I want to thank the government of Dominica for considering our vulnerability and doing everything to address this to make us safer. Mr. Speaker, reconstruction works on the road from Wadiab to Hatton Garden is ongoing. The main objective of the project are to improve infrastructure resilience to disaster events and pilot climate change adaptation measures through slope stabilization intervention, rehabilitation of road, bridges and retaining walls, and the rehabilitation and construction of drainage system. Funding for this project was made available from both the World Bank and the Government of Dominica under the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project. Mr. Speaker, the $127 million project is ongoing. $47.5 million was expected to complete the section from Wadiab to the Cassibruce Junction. Work details for this section referred to as Lot 1 include rehabilitation and widening of pavement to traveled width of 6.5 meters, and the necessary activities to achieve these were excavation and slope stabilization work, replacement of two bridges, namely Livialaw and Bellevue bridges, replacement of 77 culverts varying sizes between 1.2 meters and 3 meters, construction of 15 retaining walls, curb, slippers, rectangular drain over the complete length of road, asphalt concrete road surfacing, and other amenities to include road markings and signage. However, Mr. Speaker, the trough of November 6, 2022 exposed vulnerability areas on the road which were not previously considered in the project, but they had to be addressed. This resulted in extra costs which were not previously factored in. In addition, Mr. Speaker, In some areas, work advanced faster than expected and payments had to be made. Mr. Speaker, the project in our area, Lot 1, is nearing completion. The lives of the people of Cassibrus, Petit Soufriere, Good Hope, Saint-Sauvé, Mopo, and Deepa are being transformed for the better in every aspect. Mr. Speaker, every time and everywhere you see a new road is being built or an existing road is being improved, this means jobs for the people in that area. $2.8 million was paid to 224 farmers in the Cassibrus constituency for lands repossessed for this road project. Farmers receive additional payments as crop compensation. Several people from the constituency are employed on this project. Many of our tradesmen improved their skills and learned new skills. New relationships were built. Travel time has decreased, and people are beginning to come again for their fish, produce, and the turkeys. Cassibrus is not far again because road nice road. We have begun to see the savings on shocks, tires, and other vehicle parts. Drivers are happier, passengers are merrier. More smoother ride for patients on the ambulance. More people are visiting our area, therefore increased economic activities. Mr. Speaker, this morning I'm speaking from experience. The benefits of this new East Road project to the constituents of Cassibrus are visible and tangible. People in food preparation business are engaged. Farmers and fisher folks provide foods to the food preparation businesses. These food preparation businesses increased their number of employees, and workers were transported by bus. Mr. Speaker, because of this East Coast project, the Cassibrus constituency is becoming active again, and Dominica is becoming a more modern, developed country. This project has not only brought greater comfort and convenience to our people, but value is being added to the lands in the area and opportunities are opening up. The self-esteem of our people has improved. Our children are growing up in a more developed area than we did, and one that our grandchildren could not even dream of. Mr. Speaker, we have come a long way. From waking up at 4 a.m. to take a lorry, to take 2.5 hours of rocking to get to Roseau, we now take 40 minutes of nice ride to get to Roseau. And there are some young people who are testing me and saying, "Pal Rep, I took 35. Not a good idea. Let's hold to the 40. Mr. Speaker, the value and beauty of this project have improved our image and esteem and increased our sense of belonging and pride. But above all, Mr. Speaker, the people of the Cassibrus constituency feel safer because this project has addressed a number of vulnerable areas on this road. As we move into the rainy season, we are full of gratitude as we believe that our experience with the rain will be more comfortable than years before because of the improved road infrastructure resilience to disaster events. Mr. Speaker, any money spent to make Dominica and Dominicans safer is money well spent. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, the $48,950,000 appropriated to the rehabilitation of the East Road project, Phase 1, was money well spent. I thank you.
Yes, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and esteemed colleagues, I rise to express my unwavering support for the supplementary appropriation currently under consideration on this Honorable House. I intend on being short, but when it comes to Cassibrus, Mr. Speaker, I can neither be short nor can I shut up. These additional funds represent a crucial investment in the continued development
and prosperity of our beloved nation and its people. It's imperative, Mr. Speaker, to recognize the significance of these expenditures in advancing the well-being and progress of our society. The government's commitments to allocating resources beyond the original budget underscores its dedication to addressing emergent needs and seizing opportunities for growth. The supplementary appropriation encompasses initiatives and projects aimed at enhancing various aspects of our country's infrastructure and economic vitality. I am delighted that the rehabilitation of the Eastern Roadworks Phase 1, a vital undertaking under the purview of the Ministry of Public Works, Public Utilities, and Digital Economy, has been allocated a substantial sum of $48,950,000, and that's why I like to run the figures, you know. Mr. Speaker, it's $50 million, $50 million, let us round it up, for phase 1 of the rehabilitation work. This project holds immense significance for the residents of Castle Bruce and surrounding areas, as it addresses long-standing infrastructural challenges and paves the way for enhanced connectivity and economic development. Phase 1 of the project, spanning from Boadiab, I know it's a Tarish Street, so I always say Tarish Street. So spanning from Tarish Street to Castle Bruce is nearing completion, and I am profoundly grateful. Mr. Speaker, development indeed comes at a cost, particularly building roads in Dominica, especially amidst the challenges posed by the rainy seasons. Our mountainous terrains present numerous hurdles for construction, and heavy rainfall worsens these difficulties. Soil erosions, landslides, flooding often occur, causing damage to roads and impeding construction progress. Moreover, the high humidity and frequent tropical storms in our region further complicate the construction projects. Yet, despite these challenges, the dedication and perseverance of all involved has brought us to the brink of success. This project underscores the resilience and determination of our people in the face of adversity. To the residents and motorists who have faced inconvenience and challenges during the rehabilitation of the road, I want to express my heartfelt understanding and empathy. I fully comprehend the difficulties and frustrations that accompany navigating through the construction zones. The unexpected delays, the rugged drive, the wear and tear on our vehicles, and the disruption of our daily routines were incredibly frustrating. Your resilience and patience throughout this period have not gone unnoticed. Despite these inconveniences, you have shown remarkable perseverance and understanding. And Mr. Speaker, I can recall when we were doing the wind blow section of the road, it was properly prepared with tarish and everything else ready for the asphalt. And a few hours of rain one evening, all the tarish washed down into the homes of people. And when we visited this site, the parent, myself, and John and so on visited the site this morning, it was heartbreaking. And I really want to thank people like Choose and Tanti Choose, Cardias, and all these people down there, Yulin and Bettina Lockhart. Our house was completely flooded with tarish and so on. You know, it was very difficult, very challenging time for the people. But Tanti Choose was smart. She built a road with tarish. Your willingness to adapt to changing traffic patterns and endure temporary disruptions speak volumes about your commitment and the greater good for our constituency. I am relieved that the worst of the challenges associated with the rehabilitation of the project in Castle Bruce constituency is now behind us. After enduring inconveniences and disruptions, the people of our constituency can fully look forward to reaping the rewards of this transformative endeavor. The completion of the road brings a sense of satisfaction and relief to our communities. The project holds immense significance for the development and connectivity of our nation, particularly for the communities along the East Coast. The road infrastructure plays a pivotal and facilitating economic growth to all the communities within the Castle Bruce constituency, from Castle Bruce all the way down to Pili Soufriere. Businesses can now operate more efficiently, and entrepreneurs can explore new business ideas to attract Dominicans into Castle Bruce. The economic benefits will not just come. We have to create opportunities for people to come into Castle Bruce. Take risks. We have funds at the aid bank at 2%. 2%. Go to the aid bank, take the risk, reinvest in your business, and you will see the financial returns in the long run. By approving this supplementary estimate, Mr. Speaker, we signal our commitment to progress and prosperity for all Dominicans. Furthermore, this project is not merely laying asphalt. It's about building resilience against natural disasters, enhancing tourism potential, and improving the overall quality of life of our citizens. The World Bank sponsorship underscores the international recognition of this importance of this endeavor and the confidence in our ability to execute efficiently. Mr. Speaker, I can also share with this Honorable House the enthusiasm and excitement expressed by residents living overseas regarding the developments in Castle Bruce. As one who is deeply connected with the diaspora community, I am constantly fielding inquiries about the progress of the road. I share frequent updates on all my social media platforms, and I'll continue to do that as we go up to the Carib-Lago territory. And Mr. Speaker, it is no coincidence that over the weekend I noticed a significant uptick in discussions among Castle Bruce people living in diaspora about a family and friends reunion in August 10th to 17th, 2025. It is my firm suspicion that their eagerness to organize such an event stems from the desire to return home and experience firsthand the improvement brought about by the newly established road. The prospects of reconnecting with their roots and experiencing the enhanced accessibility and connectivity that the road provides has undoubtedly ignited a sense of nostalgia and anticipation among our diaspora community. By expressing their interest in organizing such a reunion, they are not only demonstrating their desire to reconnect with their homeland, but their confidence in the positive changes taking place in Castle Bruce and in Dominica by extension. Mr. Speaker, it's never too early to extend gratitude to the various stakeholders who contributed to the progress of the road leading to Castle Bruce. From the inception to the current execution stage, the collaboration and dedication of numerous individuals and organizations have been instrumental. First and foremost, sincere appreciation goes to the government of Dominica and Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit for their vision and commitment to infrastructure development, which has paved the way for this significant project. The Ministry of Environment involvement underscores the importance of sustainable development and environmental stewardship in such endeavors. Special recognition is due to the DVRP, and in particular, Joe and George, for our leadership in conducting vital consultations with the community, ensuring the local voices are heard and incorporated in the project planning process. The contributions of CREED, as well as the active participation of all residents of the Castle Bruce constituency, have been invaluable in shaping the project to meet the needs of the community. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, a heartfelt acknowledgement must go out to former parliamentary representative Johnson Drygo, whose advocacy and determination have been the driving force behind this project. His unwavering dedication to the betterment of the constituency has laid the groundwork for this positive project and the progress that we have seen so far. As the project continues to unfold, let us continue to work together in partnership and collaboration, united our shared goals of enhancing infrastructure and improving the lives of all residents. Thank you to each and every stakeholder for your contribution and commitment to the success of this important endeavor. Alongside the Castle Bruce Road project, which has rightly received most of my time, other crucial allocations are deserving some recognition. One such allocation is designated to the construction of the Kalinago Multipurpose Center and Emergency Shelter. This project holds immense importance, reflecting our commitment to providing essential infrastructure and services to all communities, including our indigenous Kalinago population. Furthermore, funds have been earmarked for the vital geothermal energy project. As we strive to diversify our energy sources and reduce reliance on fossil fuels, investments in renewable energy infrastructure are paramount. The geothermal energy project represents a significant step towards achieving energy security and sustainability for our nation. Under the stewardship of a Dominica Labour Party government, our country has undergone profound transformation. We have witnessed progress in various sectors, from infrastructure development to welfare initiatives. As we continue on this trajectory, it is imperative that we uphold principles of transparency, accountability, and responsible financial management. The government remains steadfast to these commitments of those principles. We will continue to ensure that every dollar allocated is utilized efficiently and for the betterment of our citizens. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I express my unwavering support to the supplementary estimates. It represents a crucial step forward for our journey towards national development and prosperity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Before we proceed, let me just make a little comment. I would just like to refer members for guidance on the rules of debate, Standing Order 41-8. Just as guidance. I won't read it now, but just as guidance. So 41-8. Before we proceed, so we can be guided accordingly. So we may proceed, Honorable Frederick.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Speaker, I would like to share briefly on the supplementary estimates before us this morning, and to specifically look at the multi-purpose center for the Carnago space, and also to share briefly on the East Coast Road. And just to say that more specifically, building resilience and adaptive capacity to climate change and disaster risk in the Carnago territory as for the shelter. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to remind this Honorable House of the of page 10 of the manifesto of 2019. Yeah? And it speaks to the establishment of regional shelters across the country. And also it speaks very candidly about doing a shelter within the Carnago territory. And this project will indeed reflect that particular it continues to resume that particular election promise. And I'll quote, it says, the centers will focus on public education, knowledge and skills among nationals to enhance disaster preparedness, being climate smart and resilience. And so, Mr. Speaker, I would like to report to this Honorable House that works have been progressing significantly on that particular project. We know it comes from a major grant under the Canadian government through the CDB, but there's also a massive amount of investments that needs to come from the coffers of our government of Dominica, or I dare say YG Kubuli. And to say to the Honorable House that we have since selected a contractor and we expect in the next 3 or so weeks to begin construction. But Mr. Speaker, to say why it's important to capture this in the supplementary is that not only are we building an important shelter, but we also building human capacity. For the most part, this development or this portion of the government have sometimes been discounted from the conversation. That we see a fancy road, we see a fancy building, we see fancy structures, but we sometimes forget the importance in placing capacity in the hands of people. And so within that particular project, Mr. Speaker, we have been able to support the Canago Council, because we know for a fact that the Canago Council is basically authority within the Canago space that ensures development, holds that in common for all of us, and for all of us who do have Canago heritage, we may be able to garner from my help a piece of that space. But also, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that the first responders at various levels, at the hamlet levels, and I listened to the Honorable Dr. McIntyre, Minister of Finance, speaking about the 8 hamlets that build up the Canago territory. And what you would see within those hamlets is that they're clearly divided by a river, hence Gullet River, Mara River, Saliba River, etc. And so each of these hamlets do have people within that space who need to themselves be ready to respond in terms of a natural disaster. So the money is going to be well spent to ensure that we have the proper handbooks developed for shelter management, and also to ensure that in terms of a disaster, that our massive investment in that project can be sustained and realized. But Mr. Speaker, so I'm delighted for the wonderful folks in the Canago territory and Atkinson and Antrizzo who will get jobs also. And this comes also, Mr. Speaker, on the heels of the 50 homes that are being built under the EU-funded projects. So these are resilient homes. And it appeared to me that the HRP have been resident in the Canago space for a little while, and it will continue to build more resilient homes. So it's on the heels of the EU-funded homes and also the housing recovery project that we build in the shelter. And Mr. Speaker, it will not only be a space for saving human lives, but it will also be a space that will be used in times of celebration. And so, Mr. Speaker, I would want to invite all of you here in the House and those who are listening, on the grounds of the emergency shelter, where it is expected to be built, is normally the annual Vaval, Tewe Vaval. I think a unique event in the Canago space that have contributed significantly to the economic development there and activities. So next year, we will be coming on the grounds of that wonderful facility to enjoy the ending of Carnival. Well, Mr. Speaker, on a very, very serious note, I'm excited that we could make those monies available, because the major investments will go a long way to ensure that people across the region, and I say across the region, across the YT equivalent space, can enjoy a serious level of security. And I would dare say to my braves who live in this space and those who live in surrounding villages and those in the diaspora, that this government have consistently illustrated that the Canago are important part of the national agenda. And so they are not discounted at all. And I'm very mindful to say that many of us here do share that heritage. And I want you to continue to support everything in that particular space that ensures the security of human lives, but also ensures the security of our cultural enterprise. And I dare say we don't have a good Dominica if we do not honor the rich heritage of the Kalinago people. So, Mr. Speaker, once again, this supplementary estimate spells out $500,000 for the continued works that will be done. And obviously, Mr. Speaker, you will expect that when the project was envisioned a few years ago under the good guidance of then Mr. Daru, my former boss, Cassius Daru, and I stand on their shoulders and Kelly Grano before him, and Ashton Grano before him also, that prices would have increased and things would have changed. We have had the bidding process go over an extended period because we're trying to get the best deal for the Kanago people, but also get the best way to use the resources that we are investing in that Kanago space. And they say that even if I continue to say Kanago space, this shelter will serve the entire constituency, because we're speaking about river to river, Pegua, and like I normally say, Tisha Boni is always excited about this. Wakama to Pegua. This is really, truly a space that will benefit from the shelter. Because if the Pegua River is impassable, people within that space will find shelter within the new Kalinago multi-purpose emergency shelter. Mr. Speaker, on the second note, the East Coast Road, a no-brainer, a no-brainer. It's important that we make investments in our public infrastructure, and roads are no exception. And I think people within the Dominica context, sometimes they say it in a flippant way, man. We're just building a road. I mean, we built a $126 million road across that space. I mean, that is serious business. And we talk about it, and even some of us here in the parliament, we don't even do a nice little video of this thing and say good works. But if there's a little dust, we complain. But I know for a fact that road network here will provide connectivity, and that's important. We have to consistently connect all our communities, and definitely from Wadia all the way to Pegua, we will ensure that that is done. So of course, transportation of goods and services, the wholesale trucks come in, people move their farm and produce from point A to point B, hucksters, all of these folks will benefit from this road. And I want to report to the Parliament that the road works are progressing nicely. It's almost into Salibia, which is a center hamlet in the Carnago space. And within the next few weeks, I suspect we'll get as far as Atkinson. Not only connectivity, but accessibility. And as Mr. Speaker, as we prepare for the new international airport, definitely a nice network of roads would provide alternative access, but also easy flow of traffic, and especially through the cultural, dear Vince Henderson, Honorable Vince Henderson, dear Carnago, the cultural capital of Dominica, right, Tikubuli? And definitely we will continue, that will continue to help with trade and commerce. And just, Mr. Speaker, to say that we have had issues with this road, because we have had major disruptions through the trough system, heavy rainfalls. And that is just, Mr. Speaker, the issue of building roads in Dominica. When it first was done in the 1950s, an overnight rainfall would just wash up miles of roads. So it's not an easy feat to have that road being built, and especially when the situations that are clearly abnormal. Because, Mr. Speaker, we can't divorce that from what's happening on the global scene in terms of climate change. And as the Minister of Environment, I just say that we have taken on board the serious interventions with our national contributions to the FCCC to ensure that we have done all the best under the Montreal Protocol to ensure greenhouse gases do not continue to affect us. We know for a fact that we have very little to contribute to climate change, but we're on the front lines, and we get the bad weather as we move forward. And just to end, Mr. Speaker, both of these infrastructures, the East Coast Road and also the multipurpose emergency shelter, are investments that will spur further development. They will attract business and tourism, etc. It will also add value to our communities, because no longer can we talk about roads one country, because under the Dominican Labour Party, everywhere is capital, and so not this business fact that we have freedom more in our city, etc., but to say that the old colonial idea of we go in country We got to get rid of that because with this wonderful network of roads, we will be part, an equal part. So as we see, Dominica, the Waitikobuli space is one big village that will be connected easily with our East Coast Road and also good facilities like our emergency shelter. And at the end, Mr. Speaker, we're hoping with International Airport, with Geothermal, that all of this will help to foster serious socioeconomic progress. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to be very, very, very brief in my presentation because most of the questions that I wanted to ask today, the Minister for Finance, Honorable McIntyre, I think made a lot of, said them in his financial statements. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make my contribution on the Supplementary Appropriation 2023-2024. Please permit me to refer to my notes, please.
Permission granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it would be indeed very difficult to speak against this project or these projects since they are measures that are badly needed, especially going into the hurricane season. Therefore, I wish to make suggestions or recommendations towards the supplementary estimates. Mr. Speaker, we need to focus on the country's vulnerability when it comes to hurricanes. Many of us here can remember quite vividly that the passing of Hurricane Maria in 2017 and a few tropical storms thereafter that had a critical impact on the country. Hence my reason for saying that we are very vulnerable here in Dominica when it relates to natural disasters. Mr. Speaker, we are seeing in the supplementary estimates that $500,000 have been funded by the CDB to meet commitments relating to the emergency center in the Kalinago territory. This, Mr. Speaker, is a much needed project in the Kalinago territory. However, we need to aim at building the country's capacity to effectively mitigate against climate change issues in our beloved country. Mr. Speaker, when monies are being spent, I believe that it is our right to know how these monies were spent or how it is spending. And as I said prior, that I am indeed happy that the Minister of Finance could give a breakdown on how the monies are spent on the projects that benefited from these funds. Mr. Speaker, the loan for the electricity generation, like the geothermal project, will add millions to our already stock of debts, which is already extremely high.
Honorable, Paul, you cannot anticipate a debate, so you have to stick on the supplementary estimate.
Yes, Mr.
So you cannot bring in the loans when we have a debate to come on the
Mr.
loans.
Speaker.
Yes. So proceed, but let's stay focused on the matter on hand.
As I said, Mr. Speaker, that I'll be very brief and say that you have caught me in my presentation, which I was going to elaborate on, Mr. Speaker, and I've already gotten most of my answers from the financial statement. I will let somebody else proceed, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so very much.
Yes. Honorable Pinard, you may proceed.
Honorable Speaker and esteemed members of this Honorable House, I rise in support of the government's Supplementary Appropriation Bill for the year 2023-2024. Mr. Speaker, before I proceed, I beg your consideration in allowing me to refer to my notes.
Yeah, permission granted.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, budgeting at any level is an exercise where we quantify our plans and our expectations. However, there are an innumerable number of events that could cause us to deviate from our plans and our expectations. And then this will lead to actual variations in our budget. But the framers of our Constitution in Section 78 anticipated such and allow for the supplementary appropriations, which is why we are here today. That said, Mr. Speaker, I also want to assure the public that this government has been a very responsible steward of our consolidated funds and our financial resources. Mr. Speaker, this is confirmed by the reputable report from the IMF, which for the fiscal period 2020-2023, which says, and I quote, that the economy has fully recovered to pre-pandemic levels, and the economic imbalances have gradually narrowed. Real GDP grew by 5.6% in 2022 and 4.7% in 2023, returning to pre-pandemic output levels. The recovery has been underpinned by an ambitious public sector investment program, strong agricultural activity, and a rebound in tourism, end quote. Also, Mr. Speaker, the IMF reports informs that, and I quote, the outlook remains positive, predicated on a full recovery of stayover arrivals, implementation of key investment plans, and prudent fiscal management. Growth is expected to average 4.5% during 2024-2025, end quote. So we have well done in managing the resources of our country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we all know that many of the challenges we face in Dominica with respect to the construction and maintenance of our road networks and infrastructure in general. Dominica is easily one of the most beautiful countries in the world. The opening lines of our national anthem says, Isle of Beauty, Isle of Splendor, Isle to all so sweet and fair. All must surely gaze in wonder at these gifts so rich and rare. Rivers, valleys, hills and mountains, all these gifts we do extol. But Mr. Speaker, these come at a cost, at a price. Because of the topography, the hills and the mountains that we refer to, it is extremely challenging to both construct and to maintain our road networks. Mr. Speaker, our residents of the east and the northeast part of the country, including the Kalinago territory, Cassibros, Good Hope, Saint-Sauveur, Petit Soufriere, and up to Boadiab, for years, day after day, have had to contend with driving on a run-down and dangerous road into the city as a result of damage from flooding, landslides, and other events that negatively impact the road conditions, the humidity, and so on. Now, not only was the commute excessively time-consuming and uncomfortable, but it also resulted in higher costs to maintain and operate vehicles. They had to incur higher maintenance in terms of changing their suspension parts and so on. And so the road was an economic burden on the commuters on that road, Mr. Speaker. However, even before it is completed, we want to happily report that the rehabilitation of the road is already proving to provide much relief to our residents from the east. The commute is now significantly shorter, and the cost to run and maintain a vehicle on that road has been significantly reduced as a result. Commuters will enjoy a much smoother, a more comfortable ride and to the city, Mr. Speaker. Additionally, we must accept that both foreign and locals will avoid these dilapidated roads whenever possible, which means that less people would have visited the areas in the east and the northeast as a result of the poor road conditions that existed before. The new road therefore opens up these impacted areas to an increase in the number of visitors to their villages, which then increases commerce and economic activity. The new roads also allow residents to share their culture and their customs with a larger number of persons. And so, this new road will help enrich the lives of us all, both locals and visitors, both north, south, east, and west across the face of Dominica. Mr. Speaker, the importance of this road is evident by the fact that it accounts for 93% of these supplementary appropriations presented here today. This government is about taking care of our people. We are about improving the well-being of our citizens, making life richer, easier, and more pleasurable. This road opens up the east and brings it closer to the rest of Dominica, and brings the rest of Dominica closer to it. These are the same factors that inspired the Prime Minister to negotiate for the construction of a new road connecting the town of Portsmouth to the new upcoming international airport on his recent visit to China in celebration of our 20 years of friendship with the People's Republic of China. And we, the people of Dominica, must express our sincere thanks and gratitude to the PRC for yet another generous gifts. We have benefited so very much from this relationship with China, and yet we continue to be blessed by this great friend of ours. And it is for this reason that we continue to stand with our friend and continue to pledge our unyielding support for the One China policy and for the peaceful reunification of Taiwan with the mainland. Mr. Speaker, this new road from the airport to Portsmouth will include the construction of numerous bridges, which are presently estimated to number in excess of 20. So this is a gift that will likely worth in excess of $150 million or more. But like the East Coast Road, it will serve to open up access and continue with the development of our road network and infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, the construction of the international airport is rightly expected to lead to a large increase in the number of visitors to the island. However, to readily fulfill the maximum potential, we must also develop the supporting infrastructure to include our road networks. We must ensure that our visitors have an amazing experience in Dominica. This new road will improve the visitors' experience and will encourage them to go out and enjoy the many gifts that we in Dominica have to offer, which will allow them to then open up their wallets so that we can further benefit from their presence financially. This is what the construction and the development of our roads lead to. This is what the construction and improvement of our roads, such as the new one that we are now building also from Loubier to Granby, will lead to. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the construction of these roads, such as the one we are going to be building from the airport to Portsmouth as well, we will see an increase in the number of visitors, not only from overseas to those areas, but also from the eastern parts of Dominica connecting to the Portsmouth area. Because we can expect that since the road will be shorter and smoother and safer, more locals will also visit the town, which will also enhance commerce and economic activity in the north. Also, this new road will ensure that more persons come to enjoy all the new sporting facilities that we are now constructing up in Portsmouth. We all remember what it was like to drive on the West Coast before the construction of the E.O. Leblanc Highway. The poor conditions of the highway was a major factor behind Dominicans shifting from mostly having cars to having SUVs. Our cars simply could not withstand the dilapidated conditions of the roads. Vehicle maintenance was astronomical, and driving was a nightmare. Having to be constantly shifting and swerving in the roads was dangerous. So driving to Roseville from the north was a dreadful affair. However, with the construction of the E.O. Leblanc Highway, another gift that was presented to us by the PRC, the commute became much easier and pleasurable, and we are now presenting the same blessings to the people of the East and Northeast with this new highway. Mr. Speaker, I wholeheartedly support the $48,985,000 appropriation for the rehabilitation of the Eastern Road works. Mr. Speaker, I also want to give support to the operation expenses of the geothermal project. Our records show that the government has already invested significant sums, estimated over $150 million on the project so far. So much has already been done with respect to the drilling and the testing of wells to ensure the availability and sustainability of the renewable resource. We have come a long way, and it has been a long time coming, but the end is in sight, Mr. Speaker. The remaining investment phases include the construction of the plant itself, as well as the construction of the transmission lines and network. Mr. Speaker, this government is committed to doing big things for Dominica, and the geothermal plant is another big thing. Mr. Speaker, the geothermal plant is expected to lower the cost of electricity on the island to households and to businesses. The lower cost of electricity is essential, Mr. Speaker. As we know, electricity prices have been rising over recent years, both as a result of imported inflation and as a result of increased use of household appliances. Right now, with climate change and global warming, most houses are trying to get an air conditioning unit installed, and these things are increasing the cost of electricity, Mr. Speaker. So the geothermal plant will increase the renewable sources, our local energy sources, and therefore serve to reduce the cost of electricity to our households. And Mr. Speaker, the lower electricity cost will also be a major attraction to foreign direct investment. The lower cost of electricity will lead to a significant reduction in the operating costs, for example, of hotels, where electricity is a major component of their operating expenses. Also, Mr. Speaker, factories and other heavy equipment operating businesses rely heavily on electricity, and electricity is also a major part of the operating expenses. Mr. Speaker, not only will the lower cost of electricity be attractive, but the fact that the source is a renewable and green source will also be attractive in its own right. Businesses recognize that increasingly people pay attention to factors such as their carbon footprint and other green and new renewable factors. Consumers will in fact pay a premium for businesses that align with their values, especially on such factors as environmentally sustainable practices. So not only will businesses benefit from having a lower operating cost, but they might actually be able to benefit from having premium pricing as a result of geothermal. The geothermal plant will allow for our energy independence. The construction of our plant will reduce our dependence and thus the demand for imported petroleum products that will take away from the public's purse as well as pollute our environment. Whilst we do have a small buffer due to hydroelectricity at this time, we remain very reliant on imported petroleum. And due to our small size, the world will not be, we would not be the highest priority for major exporters in times of shortages. Also, various factors such as sea swells can negatively impact our receipt or the supply of petroleum. However, the availability of our own local source will reduce our reliance on these foreign imports, thereby ensuring a reliable supply of energy to meet our needs regardless of external factors and priorities. This will facilitate our efforts to become the first climate resilient country in the world. So, Mr. Speaker, I just want to again reiterate my unwavering commitment and support for this supplementary appropriations bill, and I wholeheartedly recommend that every member of this honorable do so as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, Honorable Blackmore.
I promise I'll be very brief. Mr. Speaker, I stand, Mr. Speaker, in total support of this request for approval of the supplementary estimate, which is consistent with the financial laws of this country. And to say, Mr. Speaker, I want to make specific reference to the intervention that speaks to the East Coast Road. And why am I doing so, Mr. Speaker? Because it seems to me that some of us are not living in Dominica. And I want to put it into a broader context. And it takes me back to President Obama, who once says that development is very hard. It takes time. And this was the leader of the free world, the richest economy of the world. United States of America. Now, Mr. Speaker, let us put it into context. The environment within which those major interventions are taking place, specific to the measure before this Honorable House, Mr. Speaker, which is contained in the supplementary estimate. And Mr. Speaker, you may recall 2017, when we were totally devastated by Hurricane Maria, and the Prime Minister went to the United Nations. Now, the impact of that devastation on our national economy was $3.54 billion in devastation, $1.3 billion US, or 221% of our debt to GDP ratio. Subsequent to that, the worst crisis in the history of man, COVID. And the only other event that had this kind of impact on our national economy as compared to COVID was Hurricane David in 1979, where most of the members, except people like myself, were not born yet. They were not conceived, fathers to have born yet. And Mr. Speaker, what we did this administration before Hurricane Maria struck, because development requires a plan, and a plan in a small economy, Mr. Speaker, magnifies sacrifice. Sacrifice has to be made. And as a people, I do not believe some of us are mindful of the sacrifice that we need to make to push this country forward. So what we did? In 2007, recognizing that we must address the fundamental constraint to growth, starting number one, road infrastructure, to facilitate commerce and the movement of people, Mr. Speaker. Number one, Mr. Speaker, you cannot build any economy if you don't address the fundamental constraints to growth. So when I hear people talking about this government is doing nothing to grow the economy, I'm saying to myself, why are they living? Economists, you know. It's economists who should base their arguments on empirical facts, and they're talking nonsense, Mr. Speaker. Permit me to use that word. Now, you cannot just come and just build the road just like that. You have to have a plan. So what we did in 2007, we had what we call a road audit. And in this road audit, Mr. Speaker, we had a time horizon to do the following. To take one, our main road into perfect condition. Two, our secondary road into perfect condition. Three, Mr. Speaker, our feeder roads. Now, coming back. So we said by 2020, one, our major road would have been in perfect condition, 100%. 2020, the same for secondary roads. What was the condition of our main road then, Mr. Speaker? Out of 320 kilometers of main road, only 40 was in fair condition. Not good, fair condition. It meant, therefore, this government had a mission. You had to tie your waist. You had to plan. And before Maria struck, Mr. Speaker, before Maria struck, we were well on the way to achieving that objective. And before Maria struck, we were 64% of perfect condition of our main road, Mr. Speaker. That is what we were doing, Mr. Speaker. A plan. Who was the Prime Minister then? Rosemary Scurry. It's he who did it. It is us in the Labour Party who did it. Nobody else, Mr. Speaker. But they say nothing's happening in this country, Mr. Speaker. So then came Maria. And going back to 2014, from 2004 to 2014, we have spent over $600 million in road infrastructure. You know. Can you imagine that? Coming out from a financial crisis in the early 2000s. At that time, you were not there yet. But that's what we meant, Mr. Speaker. And then, Mr. Speaker, now we are talking after Maria and the biggest guava season, COVID, because COVID affected the human resource base. That's the worst. After a hurricane, you can go up hours thereafter and harvest pieces of garbage and cover your house. But when you cannot go out, you cannot go to work. The impact is overwhelming. A guava season, Mr. Speaker, I don't know, some of us were better off than others, but those of us who used to guava, when we used to go to school, when guava season came, you used to guava, right? And then many of us used to guava. These young people were not going through that experience yet. Go over. If you were lucky, well, my mother was very strict, so I could not have left you in and make what they call tuba to skip school. But one guy should have brought guava for me in the Plainville. If I made a mistake, I had too many green guavas. Night time when you know what happened to you, you're in trouble, you know. Look, medical doctors there. That's how hard things work. You're on a hungry stomach and you eat guava, green guava, because you're hungry and nothing else to eat. When you go home, you cannot night time, your stomach is in the body cannot come out. Constipated, totally. So, Mr. Speaker, I mean, it's a fact. That's the reality we are facing now in this world, in this global climate. Things are tight. Notwithstanding, we don't know that because you go over like us. Dr. Mac could have known that. A lot of government in the state. Yeah. I go there sometimes and get some. You see, that is the reality confronting the world now. With the wars that's taking place coming from COVID and the price inflation, notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party administration is pushing this country forward, Mr. Speaker. Pushing this country forward. So let us put it into context. Let us put it into context, Mr. Speaker. What the Prime Minister said when he went to the United Nations. But we're going to build the world's first what? Climate resilient country. Now, resilience starts with what? It starts from your home. But your roads have to be so constructed because we are prone to hurricane. We live in the tropics. Wet and dry. It rains any time. So we're not simply just building a road, Mr. Speaker. Well, check this out, Mr. Speaker. What this government is doing right now. When you traverse from Brajab going back to the Carib territory, you have over 143 culverts that will compromise. 173, sorry, that will compromise. So you're talking about replacing 173 culverts plus, Mr. Speaker. Culverts to deal with the issues of hydraulics in the area. It rains a lot. So 173, Mr. Speaker, culverts. Now we're moving now to, you're talking about proper drainage. Over 60 meters of drainage work being done on the road. We're talking about resilience, we're talking about 60 meters of 60 meters. We're talking about both sides, you know. Drainage. Kilometers, sorry. Thank you, that's why I doctor next. 60 kilometers of drainage work, Mr. Speaker. Now, you heard from Senator Austell, and I want to commend the member for Parliament for the Castlebrooks constituency, because she has been talking a lot about that road. And that's why, when she used to get blows from a past member who was a senator, I asked a very simple question. And when I asked the question, she had not understood it after she understood the fatal blow that I was sending in the direction. I was asking her whether she was packed. She said, nothing happened in Castlebrooks, nothing happened in the East Coast. All she's saying is dust. So I asked her, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, are you parking your car in Roseau and taking a broom to fly into the city? Oh, yeah. So you can't call that? So all you know, you cannot see the road, you can't see nothing happening on the road, or you can see the dust, because the dust is in the air, but you cannot see what's taking place on the road. And you know, from Jeff Programax, Site TV, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, that's what you're talking about. So, Honorable Bonnie, the Member of Parliament and the Minister for Education, and Senator Austell made reference to a very important fact, the security it provides. So we're moving now for 4.5 meters of the carriageway, the width of the road, to 6.5. So you multiply 3.2 by 6.5, what do you get? 20.8 feet. All right? That's the width of the road you're going to be right now. So you have a wide road to drive. You can even take 3 lanes. That is what the Labour Party administration is doing. Ever so pack away, Mr. Speaker. They're not saying it. You see, that is what we're doing, Mr. Speaker. And then the issue of returning walls, Mr. Speaker. Returning walls, because we have to put more. You have an engineer on the side there, Honorable Castan, maybe we can speak to that. We're talking about the need to have culverts, returning walls to take care of some of the hydraulics issues down there. Okay? Returning walls. Over 43 returning walls are being built on that road, Mr. Speaker. That is what we are doing. Resilience to the core, Mr. Speaker. So I don't want us to stand up there, Mr. Speaker, and speak about the road from Bajab to Karinago territory. Just like that, there's an intention behind the construction of that road that speaks to the need to improve our resilience as a country, that speaks to the need to have proper road to facilitate development in this country, Mr. Speaker. And no road, no development. No country can develop without proper roads, Mr. Speaker. Make nobody fool you. You know, when I was the Minister for Public Works, my good friend, I can call his name, he's a Christian now, we're good partners. He made a song, We Can Hide Concrete. I say, I say, I want him. You're going to forget the song. Number one, you're trying to dance, you cannot dance, you're going to forget the song. We Can Hide Concrete. Michael Lucas. You're still going to sing it and you forget it. Why you can't hide concrete? You need concrete to create the environment for prosperity. How are you going to promote the country in terms of its economic prospects with poor roads now? You build in our house, the first thing you need to bring a material to the house is a road. Mr. Speaker, basic. I'm not going to talk about an issue about geothermal. That will come later, which is the measure in this measure before this honorable house. Again, addressing the constraint to growth, Mr. Speaker. And if we're trying to encourage energy-intensive organizational businesses, we have to bring down the cost of energy. Common sense, Mr. Speaker. Common sense. So all this pally, after the stocking, nothing is happening, and they're fooling themselves, making a nuisance out of themselves. Mr. Speaker, the greatest infection in this country, Mr. Speaker, was not COVID, you know. The greatest and most dangerous infection in this country, Mr. Speaker, is the infection of misinformation. And lies, Mr. Speaker. We have to be mindful about that, you know. We dealt with COVID because we are resilient. But there's no way to deal with this element, this infection of misinformation and wickedness, Mr. Speaker. And we'll talk about it later when we talk about the recent court matter and make a little short statement just now. You see? Everybody said, no, I think it's nice with us now. So we will speak about that just now, Mr. Speaker. Sir, Mr. Speaker, I support this measure, Mr. Speaker, because of my growth.
Yes, Honorable Anderson, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to have a singular focus on the supplementary estimate, and that is the item that deals with the $2.7 million made available to the Dominica Geothermal Development Company towards the development of geothermal energy in Dominica. I know some of my colleagues may say that we have an item on the agenda which will give me the opportunity, but I think you should never let a good opportunity go to waste. And especially everywhere I see geothermal, I get excited and I want to talk. Mr. Speaker, I am happy to be here this morning because I just came back from 2 weeks, 2 conferences on renewable energy. Yeah, I was in foreign. So, Mr. Speaker, and you know, it was very painful. Very painful. That's why I'm happy to be here. And I'm happy to be here this morning in Dominica to talk about renewable energy and geothermal energy in particular. Because I got reminded that over 12 years ago, we sat, small island developing states, we met in Barbados. Honorable Blackmore was the minister responsible for energy at the time. And we gathered in Barbados. At the time, I was the permanent representative of Dominica to the United Nations, and the chairman of SIDSDOC. And we led a discussion on transitioning into renewable energy. And back then, we gave the commitment that we're going to go 100% renewable by 2020. And some countries were less ambitious. But I will get back to that on the discussion on the item to approve the loan for the transmission line. But I'm saying this to say that back then there were countries talking about geothermal energy. And 2 years later, in 2014, when I went to IRENA Assembly in Abu Dhabi, I joined Dr. Mike Allen of New Zealand, one of the geothermal experts in the world, who is world-renowned, special advisor to IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, based in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE. And we were then seeking to get assistance for small island states interested in developing geothermal energy. And one such country was the Comoros, or the Comoro Islands, in the southeastern part of Africa, of the African continent, next to Mayotte and Madagascar, in that part of the world. Volcanic island like us, or set of islands like us in Dominica and the Eastern Caribbean. And they were seeking to develop geothermal energy. Back then, we met with several partners, the Clinton Global Initiative. We met with other governments, government representatives, seeking to get assistance for the Comoros to do what Dominica had done 2 years before to determine the commercial viability of the resource. And I'm saying this to say because 10 years later, I went to Abu Dhabi 2 weeks ago, and here I am making a presentation on geothermal, and the Comoros stands and makes the same plea that they made 10 years before. I am putting this in context to let us understand in Dominica that we are one of the most fortunate islands, nation in the world in as far as pursuing renewable energy. Because they have not made any more progress except to have discussions and discussions. But we are now at the eve of actually seeing a plan commission to get geothermal on the grid. And that is a great achievement that we must appreciate. But I want to take the opportunity to thank, because I also developed, and I mean, I know fellas like to watch me and they say I boast, but I don't boast, I just have a little style. I'm from St. Joe and I represent in Granby. But you know, yeah, little vary. But I think 10 years later, I am concluding that a contribution, academic contribution that I made in my doctoral research is being proven to be so true with every passing year. And I shared that in Abu Dhabi as well, and in Miami at the Caribbean Renewable Energy Forum, that in order to really transition into renewable energy that we're pursuing for more than 2 decades at least, you need strong leadership. And I concluded that having the consistency of political leadership makes all the difference. And that is proven to be true because, I'll give you 2 cases, well, 4 because we're in the Caribbean. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, one of the 3 islands, well, countries in the region to actually drill for geothermal energy. They had Rav Gonzalez for 20-something years. In Dominica, we've had the Labour Party for 24 years, and Roosevelt's carried for 20 of those. But St. Kitts and Nevis, which was already ahead of Dominica, and you remember, Minister, you visited Nevis to see after they had drilled their wells, we were still discussing and trying to get through. And they have lost 20 years because we sat in a forum in Miami a few days ago, and they're talking about going to drill wells again into production. I'm talking about real production wells as we did last year in Dominica. And now they're signing MOUs to discuss the development of geothermal energy after having had more than 20-year head start. So it is not only longevity, but it is the strength of the leadership. Because in this, according to a good friend of mine who works at the lotteries, in these difficult economic times, to transfer $2.7 million FS to DGDC, not easy, eh? So it means this is serious determination, the strength of the leadership, but most importantly, it's because we are seeing something. Because people ask me the question, for the last 2 weeks, I was inundated with those questions because I hate to say, again, some man grudging, but it's not my fault. So the thing is, I happen to become the spokesman on geothermal in island states. So I have had the opportunity to attend several of those sessions. But a frequent question I was asked is, how did you do it? How are you able to do it? And then the real difficult one is, why are you even doing this? You've invested so much money. Wouldn't it be easier to do something else? But I'll talk about that later. I don't want to say too much now. But except to say that I am very, very proud to be part of an administration, part of a government, part of a political party that has made its pursuits for baseload power using its indigenous source of power to create an opportunity to transform the country and to bring development throughout the country. So I'm very excited about this, and I just stand to thank the Minister of Finance and to thank my good friend, the Financial Secretary. Every time she sees me, I don't think it brings her joy because it's always more money. And the next item on the agenda will prove that. And I want to thank the Prime Minister for always giving us the support, and especially having stood up after Tropical Storm Erika and say, yeah, let's create DGDC and let's do this. Let's get it done. I think it is worth doing. And I want to thank the Ministry of Finance for making available the funds, because as you're aware, this was not budgeted for. It is supplementary. It was not part of the estimate. And therefore, we're able to make the case, and thank Fred John, for the Managing Director of DGDC, for doing an excellent job in making the case and staying the course, because his is not an easy job. I know there have been several challenges. So we are one step closer, and thank God I have committed myself to work with my other colleagues in the region, especially Grenada, because Grenada started doing surface studies and are now making an application for grant funding so that they can do their first test wells, as we did over a decade ago. So I've committed myself to work with them, to also work with St. Lucia, who we know had their first shot at geothermal in 1994, but was unsuccessful, and they're hoping to go back there. St. Vincent is committed to move again to see how they can use new emerging technologies so that they can utilize their resource. Thank God in Dominica we don't have those challenges, because we have Roosevelt Skerrit and the Dominican Labour Party. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Laville. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It is often said that a rolling stone gathers no moss, and in this case, we can clearly see in Dominica, Mr. Speaker, by the people's choice in the last 24 years to stick with this Labour Party government, we have benefited time and time again, Mr. Speaker, and every day we get closer to well-deserved prosperity. So for me, Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to be part of this Dominica Labour Party administration that is steadied by Dr. the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit. And Mr. Speaker, you can see it's a story. And we exist in this time, Mr. Speaker, where we face a lot of adversity. And in that story, the adversity that we faced is the antagonist. The challenges, the exogenous shocks that we face, the geopolitical instabilities that we face, the various wars, rising prices, inflation, it's affecting us. That's the antagonist, Mr. Speaker. But in that story of nation building, of sustainability, there lies, Mr. Speaker, a protagonist. There lies various heroes, our people, who stand firm, who stand steady, and have continued to show that they can surmount any challenge that they have been faced with. And this is why, as a government, as a Labour Party government, we have proven time and time again that at our core, our primary preoccupation is to support our people. And that is why when I look very closely at these supplementary estimates as presented, I see a story of a government playing a role of continuing to provide for its people to decrease vulnerabilities as much as possible. So I support wholeheartedly, Mr. Speaker, when a government decides to further invest in meeting commitments relating to the Kalinago Multipurpose Center and the Emergency Shelter Project. I show full support and unreserved support, Mr. Speaker, for the project to rehabilitate the Eastern Road Network, Phase 1 and Phase 2, Mr. Speaker. And also I support wholeheartedly, Mr. Speaker, the support that we are providing with climate resilience and supporting physical planning division with various software. And also, of course, any support that's provided or any commitment that's made available to support geothermal energy and renewable energy, I show unreserved support. Mr. Speaker, one may ask, why $48 million? It may seem like a lot. I wish to let people understand clearly that, first of all, this $126 million investment by the government to date has been the most significant road investment infrastructural project that the government has embarked upon since the airport. So it is truly significant. To put this into perspective, what does this mean, the 126 million plus the additional through supplementary estimates? That means, Mr. Speaker, therefore, that government places significant value on the people of the eastern parts of Dominica. That suggests that the government, if we go based on the population, is investing on average $40,000 per person in the east, which is quite significant. That is the value that this government places on the people of the east, and that is indeed quite profound. 48 million, again, may seem like a lot. But to understand clearly, the government had a choice. This project was designed and conceived a long time ago. But there were tremendous lessons that would have been learned from Hurricane Maria as we went along. No longer is it a reality for us in designing Dominica for the 50-year storm, like engineers in richer parts of the world, like the United States and England and so on do, or the design for the 100-year storm or flood event. For us, Mr. Speaker, we have seen the 3-year flood, or the 4-year flood, or 3 floods in 7 years. This is our reality. And as a result, we have a choice as a government. Are we going to stretch the money? Or are we going to face this reality and deliver to the people of the East the resilience that we have promised? And this is exactly what we are doing. So, Mr. Speaker, it is why, while extensive investigations would have been done by leading engineering companies, I recall TIPS, a Spanish company, was involved in doing most of the designs for this project. While they would have done tremendous subsurface investigations to give an idea of the expectations and the soil properties, there were many nuances of this project, many variables, and during construction, much of that would have been revealed. And one may ask, why is it that certain things were not known? But there are many unknowns in civil engineering works because it's subsurface. As a result, while it involves a lot of science, scientific formulas, much of it is empirical, and in some regard, art that comes along with experience. So there were variations because of some unknowns, but also too, there were variations because this Dominica Labour Party government decided to maintain its promise and its commitment of resilience. We could have said that 126 million is going to do it. It has to be done by the hook or by the crook. This has been done by past administrations, where you would have expected a 2-lane road in some areas, but instead we ended up with a feeder road. These were maybe the choices or the hand they were dealt in the past, but we decided to adopt a different method. So that is why, based on the hydrology and hydraulic investigations and analysis that would have been completed and conducted, we then decided that no culvert, no water crossing should be less than 1.2 meters. This is why that many of the slopes were redesigned at some point, because while the investigation showed one soil type, upon construction we saw changing geomorphology and changing soil formations, and we decided instead to adjust and adapt to ensure that these slopes are safe. So many of the slopes, the gradient would have been decreased, Mr. Speaker. More walls would have been added to ensure that there's greater slope stabilization. And many of the benches, as you see along many of our cliffs and embankments, you see benches. They were increased, that's the horizontal component, from 1.5 meters to 3 meters to ensure that there's safety for the people. You would see that in the Kalinagu end, phase 2 particularly, that when this was done, of course, the slopes may be then closer to the homes, and walls would have been built for stabilization. That's upslope and downslope in some cases. Mr. Speaker, that is the resilience that this government promised, and that is the resilience. The $48 million is the value of that resilience as promised. Mr. Speaker, I support the estimates wholeheartedly as presented, and I stand proud to be associated with a government of focus, a government with a plan, a government that continues to put its people first and to put the money where our mouth is. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Wenham, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it delights me to stand to support the supplementary appropriation. In particular, over $2 million to meet operational costs related to the geothermal energy project. The people, Mr. Speaker, my people of the Portsmouth constituency, we are in support of such a project as we understand how we can convert the economic landscape of our space and, of course, of Dominica by extension. The benefits, Mr. Speaker, include lower rates for electricity and a renewable source of energy, and of course less reliance on gasoline and its products. This converts, Mr. Speaker, to happier business owners. I know my business owners in Portsmouth will be elated to have lower costs for electricity, more productivity, and if we go into our homes, certainly, Mr. Speaker, more financial freedom for our families. I also support the other areas inclusive of the multi-purpose and emergency shelter facility for our Kalinago territory, the rehabilitation of the Eastern Road, and of course the physical planning division and software support and training. Mr. Speaker, any person who is serious about nation building would not oppose any of these projects or funds towards them. The benefits for us, Mr. Speaker, they far outweigh any disadvantages. The multipurpose center, it will ensure security and safety in times of disaster, and surely it will serve as a point of meeting for a community that is eager to be creative, to share the talents, and to plan and learn. These, Mr. Speaker, are all two expressions of culture. The Eastern Road, in and of itself, it ensures enhanced economic activity between and among those communities forming that historic enclave, and they too have the opportunity to become true economic creatives and entrepreneurs given the spaces that the road will open up. Mr. Speaker, in all these, we see and know the value in energy, and technology. And among these, the rise, of course, of an international airport. Mr. Speaker, these are indeed exciting times for Dominica. Let me, though, take this opportunity too, Mr. Speaker, to welcome, of course, my colleagues and members of Parliament, the people of Dominica, the Caribbean region, and the world to Cabrix on Sunday, May 5th. And in one of the island's most eco-friendly and aesthetically enhancing environments, you will witness the unfolding of fabulous creative intelligences in music and in Creole culture. Yes, Mr. Speaker, it's obvious, the Jazz and Creole Festival that will be held over the weekend in Portsmouth. I'm indeed proud of the preparations that are taking place. And at this point, I wish to also express gratitude and to say thank you to the people of Portsmouth who have come on board to ensure that the event will be a great success. The festival, as we know, is one of music, fashion, design, Creole foods, drinks, and of course, total expression of culture. It is to a tremendous, I will repeat, tremendous economic activity for the town and the adjoining communities. Mr. Speaker, I see you laughing at me. Where's she going with that? But Mr. Speaker, that too is an expression of energy. So it is well entwined there. And of course, again, just and also looking at the sustainable interaction that we support in energy development will hold and the networking that it brings. So we look forward to its success and of course to welcome everyone. And Mr. Speaker, to once again say that I support the supplementary appropriations for all of the initiatives that are listed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Prime Minister, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I shall be very brief. There's a Chinese saying, and I quote, if you want to be wealthy, build roads first. Mr. Speaker, that is how villages are connected to the world. That is how the communities do trade with the world. This is why farmers will tell you a farm access road is crucial. This is why after the hurricane, the first thing we started to do was to clear roads and to ensure that we reconnected communities, that we had access to the port and to the airport. If you build a house, the first thing you have to do is, how do I get to the plot? You build a road, access. And this is why this government has been on a mission for the last 20 years to invest heavily in improving access to our country. We cannot forget, Mr. Speaker, a drive from Roseau to the Den Melville Airport. With every single bridge from that route single in. And the road so treacherous there were more potholes in this road than surface. Covered surface. Sometimes, Mr. Speaker, you get the impression that Dominicans take things for granted. And some people speak as if we always had these things in place in Dominica. And in every village in Dominica, Mr. Speaker, wherever you see roads, this Labour Party did it. Whether we cut it or whether we surface it. We inherited a very terrible state in this country. And I'd be the first, Mr. Speaker, who would have loved not to have been to be challenged or needed to spend so much money on roads. That we could have spent this money on other endeavors. And then you build and a storm comes, it destroys the roads, you have to rebuild again. On this road that we have supplementary appropriation, just to say to the country, that the monies that the Minister of Finance has brought there for the supplementary appropriation has been spent already, all spent. And we can see the difference on the road from Boadiab to Castlebrooks and Castlebrooks to the Carnival territory. And on this road, Mr. Speaker, from Boadiab to Castlebrooks, we have to build 2 bridges. But building the 2 bridges are fine. It's okay. But we have to build temporary bridges, Mr. Speaker, at a cost to the country. And now we have to dismantle these temporary bridges because the 2 bridges are completed. And people don't appreciate those things. And then between Boadiab and Castlebrooks, we have to build 77 culverts. And these are not the 4 feet wide culverts you're talking about, Mr. Speaker. Things that you, Mr. Speaker, you can walk standing in these culverts. Or maybe I could use, maybe better I use Honorable Frederick, Mr. Speaker. That might be a better reference. That's from Boadiab to Castlebrooks. From Castlebrooks to the Carnival territory in Pegua, 3 bridges. And with all these 3 bridges we have to construct temporary bridges. Monies that we could use to pay who we owe in with temporary bridges. Monies that we could use to pay all of the schools we owe in for students who we still have commitments to. And monies we can put into the hands of small business owners in Dominica. But we have to do it. We must do it if we're going to create wealth and opportunities for people who live in the East and for the country as a whole. If we are to change the economic landscape of Castlebrooks and Pidisofre and Goodop and Sansovia and Morpo and Deeper and the entire Carnago territory, including Atkinson, we have to ensure that they have resilient roads and access so that people can come to those communities and they themselves can have better access to markets. Now, you're going to see more people coming into those communities because it is easier to get from anywhere in Dominica to the Carnago territory or to Atkinson or to Pegua or to Castlebrooks or Pidisofre. Roads. If you want to be wealthy, you build roads first. And then people say, what is roads? Then you have one pothole and no complaint. But what is roads? And so these are the challenges which a government we continue to face with. And now, Mr. Speaker, so in between Castlebrooks to Pegua, 92 culverts. I went to the Carnago territory on Saturday, and I stopped by to watch the road progress, and if you see the depth we have to go, to build these culverts, and we have to build it up. You go about 50 or so feet down, 50 or so feet down to capture the water source to ensure that when you build these culverts, it can last for the next 100 years, and we build in resilience. This is why it is costing us more money to build things in Dominica post-Maria, because this government made a commitment to build with resilience in mind. So that if we are faced with a Maria-like event, those infrastructure are better able to withstand it. And we've proven that point with the construction of the West Coast Bridge, the East Coast Bridge, or the West Bridge. And with the homes in Bellevue Chopin, that we said that after Erica, we're going to build back better. In the event that a storm like Erica visits us, we'll be better in a better position to withstand it. Maria came worse than Erica, and those homes in Bellevue Chopin withstood the ravages of Maria, and the bridge stood up. There are people who, instead of checking their homes, the first thing they want to see is whether the bridge was standing. Because they want to see whether Skerrit was wrong. And so, between Boadiab and Pegua, 169 culverts. And with the construction of all of these culverts, temporary bypasses had to be constructed. Not for free. We have to pay the contractor for it. And so this is $127 million we spent on this road. And these things you always have cost overruns. And we're very talking about $13 million in cost overruns. Additional works we have to do to ensure that when the road is completed, it is at the level that we want it to be completed. So just between Wadiap and Ego, $160 or so million. People ask, what is Kerry doing? What is the government doing? We're about to send a contract for Lube to Grand Bay Bacatel. The original contract sum will be $171 million. $171 million. Every Dominican can tell me how they would do with $171 million. I have a lot of things I would like to do with it. We could build a whole port and have more money left with it. These are the things we're doing to invest, to ensure that we create opportunities for people. Later down we'll speak, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to anticipate the debate, but we'll speak about the geothermal alone later. We have contracted some $40 million from the Saudis to redo Roseau. And the member for Collier referenced the road from the airport, the international airport, to Portsmouth. And also give you a preview of what we're talking about, Mr. Speaker. 29 bridges that we'd have to reconstruct, we have to build, because all of the bridges are single-lane bridges. 29 bridges, new bridges, and 423 culverts. That's not talking about widening of the roads. We're not talking about slope stabilization yet. We're not talking about stretching the roads in many parts, especially in Ansdemay and in Hampstead area and in Dodan and in Bourne yet. We're not talking about those things yet. Water crossings. So, yes, we thank the Lord for rivers, and we boast of 365 rivers. But with that brings a challenge. Because there's no country in the OECS, including Barbados, who have to contend with that kind of terrain to build infrastructure. None. In Antigua, they have 2 bridges. And I don't know if Gaston, my friend, I'm sure if Gaston put one in his constituency just to have one in his constituency. I don't know. I have to ask him, because the last time there was only one they had, but he built one in his constituency. I must ask him if it's a historic site. I don't know. It's a tourist attraction. But for us in Dominica, we must do it. We have no choice. No choice. And then people talking about these things. And I understand why former governments did not tackle those things. I understand. Because it is costly. Likewise, water. I understand why we brought water into Castle Comfort and Girodale and Eggleston. First time pipe-borne water in these communities, in the entire existence. We brought it there because I understand governments felt that to spend all that money to build water, you'll never make the money back. Why do it? But we in the Labour Party, we had a different philosophical view about these things. We understand the importance of water and access to potable water to enhance health and agriculture and address the issue of poverty. And there was a particular period, I will get the period, where we gave Duasco, within a 3-year period, $99 million. $99 million to remove asbestos pipes in Goodwill. Goodwill. Asbestos pipes and run the new system. And to build new water systems. And just prior to Maria, to Erica, sorry, we were investing to ensure that we had 100% potable water in Dominica. And we achieved that. But more communities are developing. People now sell farmlands, and now we have to bring water there, we have to bring telephone here, we have to bring roads to those communities, making it more challenging for the country to maintain those investments. But we understand and appreciate this. And so, Mr. Speaker, I fully support this measure. And I believe this is, the people in this part deserve it. And the idea of, okay, well, security could spend the money somewhere else. Yes, we cannot spend the money somewhere else. But don't these communities need those roads? Doesn't the country need those roads? And it's not a situation where the government has the money there and we don't know what to do with it. No. But because of our responsible fiscal management of the country, and I keep saying to people, I had a plan. I like to repeat it because it's worth repeating. When people talk about the government should do this and security should do that and so on, we were saving money for a number of things. We're saving money, one, to pay for our national debt. So I wanted Dominica to be the first developing country in the world to have a 0% debt to GDP ratio. At the time of the hurricane, we had about $380 million saved in that account. By now, we'll have all the money to pay for national debt. And what I was going to do, create a separate account. The monies that we were paying for the loans, we treat it as if we're still paying our loans and put it in the account. And we pay about $125, $120, $130 million every year for loans. 5 years, we'll have about $700 million in the account. And we use it to invest in private sector projects and public sector projects. And have this as a revolving fund. Provide to the aid bank so you can lend to private sector people at 1 and 2% to spur economic activity and growth in the country. Then we were saying for the airport, we would have had all of the monies to build the airport cash. The only country in the world would boast of that. Sitting in the banks, had it not been for the hurricane. There's no government that has thought of those things. There's no government who had the fiscal policies and the objectives and the goals and the mission and the vision to put these things in place. None. And we will go back to those policies. We have here Parliament and lay in Parliament our debt repayment strategy. And in that strategy is debt repayment fund that shall be established at the central bank so that future generations of leaders will have access to funds to repay our debt. And the government won't be able to touch this money until it gets to $142 million. Every month we're saving, notwithstanding the challenges we're having, every month we're saving in the disaster, in the vulnerability reduction risk fund established at the central bank, every month we're saving $500,000. And we started that fund in the middle of COVID-19. Yes, I could stop it and pay some of our debts. Yes, I could do that. But what if a storm comes and hits us tomorrow? And with the geopolitics in the world, with so many wars and rumors of wars in this world, where people's focus is different. Look at Haiti. These developed countries are buying billions and billions of dollars of ammunition to give to Ukraine. But who is giving Haiti money? Who is seeking to move the Congress and move the UN Security Council and the UN to ensure that Haiti is given the resources it requires? Because as far as these people are concerned, Haiti is not important. And so this world is becoming less caring and less focused on the people who could help. People are placing sanctions on them like Venezuela. And then we sit here in this country, we sit in this world and we don't want to speak about injustices. But all of these injustices against Venezuela or against Cuba, all this going to affect us. And well, we're not speaking about it because they're affecting us, because we're speaking about it isn't because it's an injustice. And so I'm happy to see, you know, the member for Salibia said that people complain about dust and so on. I keep telling people, it is the Lord who giveth and Lord taketh away. And so when people criticize and people try to undermine, people try to create problems and don't show appreciation, not me, you shouldn't appreciate. That's not me. I've been listening to the apostles. But I'm not even an apostle at all. We can't curse the lone candle in the dark. We have to see how we can use that to branch to other candles. More light. And so we could have spent this money, $42 million, you can imagine. You know, we just spent over $30 million to extend Douglas Charles. And the Minister of Finance will tell you that if he had the $40 million, he could have paid many people we owe him. But we have to do it in order for us to sustain the direct flights from North America and to give the Minister of Tourism the tools that she needs to go and negotiate with other airlines to come to Dominica direct from the United States of America. And because of that investment, she has been able to create very crucial links and opportunities and possibilities of more direct flights from different airlines from North America to Dominica, to ensure that more people can be brought into Dominica. But people will say, well, Scary, why do you spend $33 million or $40 million on extending the airport, Douglas Charles, when you build a new airport? You liken this to you building a new house. You have an old shack outside, but it's leaking, and you go and buy some galvanized because it's going to take you some time before your house finishes, so that you don't get wet. But people, so Mr. Speaker, we're talking about, though it is not captured, but it's all linked in a sense. And I'm responding to some of the comments made. And later on I'll respond to the question raised by the leader of the opposition, which is an important question. And I think it's important for us to educate and inform her and colleagues of this. Question I note because I tried to follow up while I was out of the parliament. What are we doing to combat climate change? I will speak more on this later. But just to say, Mr. Speaker, there is no way you go and you talk about climate change anywhere in the world, in any language, without those who are present referencing Dominica and his response to that. None. As a matter of fact, if they're here without coming to a conference, they call us and beg us to come. And as a matter of fact, we should have even registered and trademarked the word resilience. It's ours. So we can gain royalties from it. No, resilience is a popular word these days. Popularized by us. In terms of our resilience, our response to natural disasters. Mr. Speaker, I said I was speaking for 2 minutes. I suspect my 2 minutes are up. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable McIntyre, you may proceed.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, I stand to wind up the debate on the supplementary appropriation. I think a lot has been said and most has been clarified, so my job is a rather easy one. But just to re-emphasize and just to be repetitious, it doesn't hurt if you're correct and if you're making sense to be repetitious. The point that was made by several speakers was that roads is the road to development. And we just cannot see a road, the East Coast Road project, as just a road. It's part of the modern economic infrastructure that this government has undertaken and this government is building. This is the platform. So the money is well spent on this road because we know that this is part of the whole development process. Whether it's for transportation, whether it's for distribution regarding goods and services, we all know that roads are an integral part to develop a country, and for that we have to be very proud that we've had a plan. And then you also must appreciate the fact, Mr. Speaker, that this is all part of the DVRP, Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Program. And it became effective on the 8th of September 2014. So that's even before Erica, that's even before Maria. So that tells you to a very large extent. That's 10 years ago. So you can see that this government doesn't just do things in a haphazard manner, but this government has a plan. And it's because of this plan that here we are continuing the disaster vulnerability reduction program. Let alone the DVRP, we have to also recognize that part of the supplementary estimates, 291,000, was also spent to improve the hazard data collection and monitoring system. Now that fits in very well with our entire resilience program. Everywhere and everything we do, Mr. Speaker, you have to appreciate there are two guiding documents that guides everything this government do. That's the NRDS and the CRRP. That's the National Resilience Development Strategy, as well as the Climate Resilience Recovery Program. Those two documents are the two guided documents that is riddled with resilience and sustainability, and these are the guiding documents that we use for all our different policy programs that we initiate. So, Mr. Speaker, for instance, this $291,000 for the Dominode platform, which brings the information from the land and survey, from the physical planning department, from public works, even the LIDAR and the bathymetric data. What this does is give us an idea of the hazard and the vulnerability. So in terms of whether it's landslides, whether it's flooding, whether it's the geological hazards, and what that enables us to do is to have proper land use and data-driven decisions. So this again is an example of money well spent, and this again is an example of the resilience aspect of our development program, as well as the sustainability. Mr. Speaker, if we're to move on, you have to realize the vulnerability part. For instance, there are many other things that we're doing regarding our resilience and how we address the vulnerability. You have to recognize our position within the archipelago, the Eastern Caribbean. We're right in the center, so we're actually within the hurricane path. And apart from that, our topography puts us at even more risk. So that's how vulnerable we are. And for doing that, so for instance, Mr. Speaker, last week we had the program, the Enhanced Direct Access, which was, we did at the Forestry Department, where $2 million at 2% is made available to public servants. All of this, that was done together with the Ministry of Environment. All of this is to address vulnerability and to adjust our resilience aspect because of the upcoming hurricane season. Mr. Speaker, if we were to go further, for instance, at the end of the year, we'll be signing two contracts which have been approved by the GCF. That is one for the DOMCRAP, that's Dominica Community Resilience Enhancement Project. That's US $24 million. We hope to get this done to sign the final stuff by the end of this year. And we also have another one. That is the community climate change program. All of this is to address the agriculture, agro-processing, the capacity building, and even the resilient hurricane shelters. So all of this is just part of how we address the whole vulnerability aspect and our resilience aspect as a country. Now, what you have to recognize is this is all from a plan. And Mr. Speaker, for us to have this plan, there must be vision and there must be leadership, and obviously this country is not lacking any political will on all these different agenda items that we're mentioning here. And Mr. Speaker, if you were to go further, all these monies that were spent, whether it's on the road, whether it's on the Dominode mapping system, whether it's on the water spot that I spoke about, whether it's on the geothermal that I spoke about, all this is part of the whole modern economic infrastructure that this country is putting together. And you have to recognize, as I said earlier, it is not from just a haphazard manner. Everything has been planned, everything is based on the vision, and everything is within these two documents, these two guiding documents that I spoke about, the NRDS and the CRRP. And you can only get this if you have responsible governance, Mr. Speaker. That is why there's a plan. So every time we come here and we bring a different agenda item here, it's not just out of the blues, it's according to a plan. And that is what I want the public to understand, that this is how this government functions. Even the geothermal part, we're talking about a secure and efficient energy system. This has to be part of the modern economic system. All the different technologies that you put in, whether it's in health and in agriculture and everything, that is part of the modern economic system. And so the roads, all that is part of the whole system. And this is the platform that we're setting, that this country can move forward. Mr. Speaker, obviously, there are a few other things that have to come in place, and they're on the way. So the icing on all of this will come when we do have the international airport. This is the whole infrastructure that's being built, whether it's from agriculture point of view, whether it's from the tourism point of view, whether it's from education point of view, health point of view, the technology involved and the digitalization involved. That is the structure that this government is setting up for the development of this country. So, Mr. Speaker, based on all of this, you can see the bigger picture. Obviously, there's the light at the end of the tunnel. These are the little sacrifices that we go through now. There are many other places we could have spent this money, but we know this is what you call sustainability in development, Mr. Speaker. So with this, Mr. Speaker, I have absolutely no regrets for presenting this supplementary appropriation, and I'm pleased that everyone in the House could actually support the supplementary appropriation. I thank you.
This concludes the debate on the supplementary estimates. The supplementary estimate shall now be referred to the Committee of Supply of the whole House. And I have to report that the supplementary estimate have passed through the Committee of Supply of the whole House. The question is that the estimates for $52,441,040 be approved. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Supplementary Appropriation 2023-24, Act 2024, be read a first time.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary Appropriation 2023-2024, Act 2024.
The bill has been read a first time.
Mr. Speaker, I move the second reading of the bill shortly entitled Supplementary Appropriation 2023-2024, Act 2024.
Mr. Speaker, seconded.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Supplementary Appropriation 2023-2024, Act 2024 be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a second time.
Supplementary Appropriation 2023-2024, Act 2024.
I move that the bill shortly entitled Supplementary Appropriation 2023-2024, Act 2024 be read a third time and passed.
I beg to second the motion, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Supplementary Appropriation 2023-2024, Act 2024 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Supplementary Appropriation 2023-2024, Act 2024.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly.
Whereas, by virtue of Section 3.1 of the Loans Act, Chapter 6405 of the 2017 Revised Laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, the House of Assembly may by resolution duly passed authorize the minister responsible for finance to borrow money from approved sources for the purpose of financing general development. And whereas the government of Dominica continues to advance the development of Dominica's geothermal resource for the generation of electricity and other commercial uses. And whereas to date the government of Dominica has confirmed through test results the availability of geothermal resource in Loda capable of generating at least 20 megawatts of electricity, and the government has entered into agreement with the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023 Limited, owned by OMAT Technologies Inc. of Nevada, United States, to finance, build, and operate a 10-megawatt geothermal power plant at Loda, and then transfer to the government a fully operational power plant after 25 years of operations at no cost to the government. And whereas a new electricity transmission network is required to connect the geothermal plant in Loda to the hydroelectric power plant in the Rosa Valley and to the Dominica Electricity Services Limited DOMLEC distribution substation at Fokole for distribution to DOMLEC customers. And whereas government intends to enter into an agreement with the International Development Association, IDA, for a credit facility not exceeding SDR 28.9 million, which is equivalent to US 38.5 million, or EC 103.95 million, to finance the installation of the new electricity transmission network. Be it resolved that in accordance with Section 3.1 of the Loans Act, Chapter 6405, as amended, this Honorable House authorizes the Minister of Finance to borrow by means of credit a sum not exceeding SDR 28.9 million, which is equivalent to US 38.5 million or EC 103.95 million on the following terms. Interest, 0.75% per annum. Commitment charge, 0.5% per annum. Repayment, 60 semi-annual installments commencing May 15, 2034. Grace period, 10 years. To finance the installation of a new electricity transmission network from the Rosa Valley to Dominica Electricity Services Limited, DOMLEC, distribution substation at Fonkole.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, the government of Dominica is well on its course to achieving its goal of making available to the people of Dominica 10 megawatts of electricity from our geothermal resource in the Rosa Valley. With all of the geothermal wells already in place, an agreement signed with the Geothermal Power Company of Dominica 2023 Limited for the financing, construction, and operation of the 10 megawatt geothermal power plant in Loda. Today, we seek the approval of the House to borrow 103.95 million EC for the development of a new electricity transmission network. The current electricity transmission and distribution network, which is owned by Dominica Electricity Services Limited, does not have sufficient capacity to transport the electricity to be generated by the geothermal power plant. The new resilient network will transmit the electricity to be generated by the 10 megawatt geothermal power plant and also has the capacity to transmit the electricity from the 3 hydroelectric power plants in the Rosa Valley. Furthermore, this network is designed to support future expansion of the geothermal power plant. DOMLEC also advised that it is unable to incur the cost of developing the new transmission network, which is required as the company has not yet recovered from the extraordinary high costs which incurred in 2017-2018 to restore the network which was destroyed by Hurricane Maria in September of 2017. As stated in the resolution, the International Development Association, which is part of the World Bank, one of our main partners in this venture, is prepared to finance the development of this new electricity transmission network. This network will connect the geothermal power plant in Loda to the hydroelectric power plants in the Rosa Valley, to the Dominica Electricity Services Limited distribution substation at Fokole for distribution to DOMLEC's customers. The terms are concessional and in line with the other IDA loans. That is, interest of 0.75% per annum, the commitment charge of 0.5% per annum, grace period of 10 years, repayment of 60 semi-annual installments commencing May 15, 2034. The project to develop the new network is expected to be executed by the Dominica Geothermal Development Company on behalf of the government. Once completed, it is expected that government will enter into an agreement with DOMLEC for the leasing and maintenance of this new network. By virtue of Section 3.1 of the Loans Act, Chapter 6405 of the 2017 Revised Laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica, the House of Assembly, by resolution duly passed, authorized the minister responsible for finance to borrow money from approved sources or guaranteed loans to statutory boards of public corporation for the purpose of financing general development purposes and for other purposes. This loan has been evaluated in the context of government's medium-term debt strategy, and it is consistent with the objectives of that strategy. Mr. Speaker, Dominicans have been eagerly awaiting the day when they could have more stable electricity bills which are less dependent on the price of oil, clean, environmentally friendly, renewable energy, and a reduced balance of trade as a result of the significant reduction in the import of diesel. I look forward to the full support of the members of this Honorable House for the resolution as we seek to accelerate our efforts to bring geothermal generated electricity to Dominica's grid by December 2025. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House be suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
It has been moved and seconded that the House be suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. House stands suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
Mr. Speaker.